Sanjay Maru of MMA Landscape.com alongside the first ever Samurai MMA lightweight champion, Kyle Prepolec. First off, Kyle, before we get into your entire story of your career here, first off, how are you feeling just days out after this monumental fight for you?
I feel pretty good, like I'm still a little bit on like obviously the win high, but I expected to be a lot more sore just from that 25-minute battle. But yeah, I feel pretty good so far. So I'm happy about that.
So I want to rewind a little bit because this has obviously been a long road for you getting to this point. Particularly, I want to focus on 2019, a big year for you as you get signed onto the UFC. When did you first find out that you would be signed onto the UFC? I understand it was a short notice bout, correct?
Yeah, it was short notice. The only reason I knew is because my one buddy that I trained with in London, Jesse Ronson, who is now also in the UFC again, and I saw him tweet to Nordine before he got re-signed. Hey, if you need an opponent, I'll fight you. Like we got some like unfinished business type of thing. I don't know whatever their beef was or all that, but I was just like, oh, cool. I'm gonna shoot my shot and say basically. I think what I said was, hey, if you still need an opponent, with all due respect, I'll fight you. And then a few days pass, and I'm literally at John Max, and then I get a phone call from my coach and Pat at the time, and they're like, hey, just letting you know, we need all your like clothing size and all this, and you're in the UFC basically, and you fight in a week. And I'm like, no way. Then I was like, this is amazing. Like, okay, like I guess we got to start getting like as ready as possible. So yeah, only knew about on the week's notice basically.
Considering you had about a week's notice, do you regret taking that fight with such little time to physically and mentally prepare?
I don't regret much of like anything in life, like the choices that I like really do, just because you never know. Uh, in my eyes, it's always better to take things and say yes and then figure it out later type of thing. That's just me. But if I feel like if I didn't take that shot, I wouldn't have gotten in until maybe later that year. So I kind of just like fast forwarded my process a little bit. And the thing with it being short notice, I'm always like working out and like staying like in decent shape, not fight shape, but close enough where it's like if I have to get ready, I only need a few weeks or so. And I know it was only a week out, but I was ready to go. So that was the most important thing.
So let's talk a little bit about this rhabdo. It's been well documented that you had some struggles with this ailment. Can you take me back to the first moment, or was it a singular moment, or was it kind of gradual, where you said to yourself, okay, something is wrong, something's affecting me that I'm not used to?
Yeah, I remember the first time I did it. This was back like 10 to 11 years ago when I had a fight at 155, and then like 3 weeks later, I was like, oh, you know what? 155 was easy. I can cut a little extra weight and go to 145. That's when it first happened, when I went to 145 to fight. And then I'm warming up in the dressing room and I'm like, man, something's not right. Like I'm not, it's not the nerves. It's like, it feels like my legs are just blowing up, like and seizing, like, and just like cramping. I can't move or do anything. And then, I was like, maybe the cut was too hard. So obviously don't go back to 145 because of what happened, but no idea until 2017 when I got hospitalized for it after one of my fights because it happened again. And, I was dealing with a lot of neurologists and, doctors in Windsor that were like helping me out and, still attending to me right now just to make sure, like, obviously I'm safe and healthy. But from then and on, it's happened 6 times total in like my fight career. Um, After 2017, when I was being, documented and, monitored, constantly going for blood work just to make sure, like, is it his diet? Is it the way he's training? Is it this and that? A few years like clear didn't happen. And then my last fight with the UFC was September 14th against Austin Hubbard. It happened again. And so like my calves and everything were just like the size of footballs basically. And went back to, Windsor, went back to neurologist, and, he got me in right away to get like a muscle biopsy. The UFC was sending me to the States and all that, just to be like, it could have been compartment syndrome too, but found out it was rhabdo, did a muscle biopsy, found out it's like a genetic disorder from like a CPT2 deficiency. And now we basically have all the answers that we need. And now with this upcoming fight for Samurai MMA that happened, we prevented it, did everything to make sure it didn't happen, and it didn't happen. So yeah, that's where we're at now.
So before we reflect on your experience with Samurai MMA, I wanted to ask, particularly with the Austin Hubbard fight, because I'll be honest, I wasn't familiar with rhabdo until I heard about your story. Is this something that flares up at a specific moment? Is this something that's kind of gradual? For your experience with rhabdo, what was that like, and when did you first notice that for the Austin Hubbard fight, it was starting to affect you?
So like when the rhabdo first happened to me, like in against the Austin Hubbard, or in the Austin Hubbard fight, I should say, I do my morning shakeout. We do our normal routine, me and my coach and all that. And, we're feeling good. We're like, this is going to be a good day, like you're feeling good. Your mind is there. Everything's going perfect. We get to the venue, I'm one of the I'm one of the first fights. So we start getting warmed up, and then after just, we're warming up, all of a sudden I feel like this little like jolt, like it wants to like just seize and cramp, but it's not there. And then it just constantly just keeps like pulsating and swells and just seizes. And I'm like, well, this isn't good. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to relax, chill, lightly stretch, massage the legs, do whatever I got to do, try to like, get this away. As the day goes on, because it was already like activated, it just kept going and going and going and going. And then it for me, like it lasted probably like a month. So it would be like the fight day, because the adrenaline and everything, I could bear through it as best as possible, but I can't be as athletic or springy or do all the things I normally would do. So I have to adjust. But after the fight, it's like complete shutdown. I need like crutches or even just a wheelchair or something just to help me get mobile, because of how like my Achilles, my calf, and my feet are like, and everything is just like stuck. Just, it feels like cement just seized, this game over. And then after a little bit, it's slowly like you'll slowly recover, and then you can walk longer without it hurting, or you can start doing, the normal things in life that you can normally do, and just start like walking upstairs, or, run, go outside, play with your dog, or all that kind of stuff. So it's a lingering pain, because once it's activated, it just doesn't stop until, like it runs its course, which kind of sucks.
And how long does it usually take for it to run its course?
So for the last one, it took about anywhere from 3 weeks to a month. And that was just for me to be able to be like, okay, I can, walk on the treadmill, and I won't get like that cramp feeling, or that seizing, or that little jolt, or that pain. And then I'll have a longer duration. So then it's like, one day it could be, I can go 5 minutes, and then the next day I can go 7 minutes, and then 10 minutes. And then it slowly just, that's when I know I'm like, okay, I'm getting better. And, it's just going to run its course. What the doctors say is, obviously keep hydrated and drink tons of fluids to try to like flush it out. And then you'll be back to normal in no time. So, yeah.
Do your doctors know how you were affected by this ailment? Is this genetic? Do you know why this is happening to you?
Yeah. So like after we did the muscle biopsy, they found out like all the points were leading to CPT2 deficiency, which is like a genetic disorder. So basically, my body has a hard time, for fatty foods, like good, like fats, like avocado or salmon, or like oily, like good oils and all that. So I have to supplement with L-carnitine, because my body doesn't know what to do with those fats. So I have to stick to like a high protein, high carb diet, and just make sure, like when I'm in, fight camp, or when I got a diet and everything, I got to make sure I stick to those things. and just keep with like the rice, the chicken, the beef, turkey, like no bacon or no avocados, no salmon. Tuna's fine. It's just like all those good fats are bad for me. Meanwhile, it's good for other people. But now that I'm like out of fight camp, I can have it and it won't be as bad just because I'm not cutting weight. So basically, if I didn't have to cut weight, I would have had no idea that I had this little issue. So it's all part of it, I guess.
So it's been about 2 years since we had last seen you in the mixed martial arts cage, of course, from your UFC fight, successful in your most recent fight, becoming the new Samurai MMA lightweight champion. Talk to me a little bit about how that came about. Was that also a short notice surprise? Did you have some time to prepare? How did this all come about for you?
So basically, like, Canada's starting to like open up, and, the whole COVID thing kind of like had us, based everybody, just like everything slowed down and, held back a little bit. But after, we got through our whatever phases our provinces and all that we're going through, um, my coach reached out to me, my coach and manager reached out to me and was like, hey, you got these fighters. Who do you want to fight? I'm like, doesn't matter. Like, I just want to get in there and, make sure, I can, get in there and do this. Especially with all the COVID stuff going on, you never know. So I'm like, I got to take this opportunity because it may go through, it may not. So you know what? At least this gives me a little something to move forward from where we were last time. But before the fight, I think I knew about anywhere from, I'll say, 10 to 12 weeks, just because of how things were going. And then due to like fight medicals and everything, they had to postpone it a little bit. That's why we knew for so long, just to make sure like everyone got licensed, everyone got their medicals in, and, everyone was able to train and do everything that they normally would do. So we had a good amount of time, good amount of preparation for it. And yeah, now we're here.
Based on the totally certified, peer-reviewed data form of online fan predictions, it seems a lot of people were counting you out in this most recent fight. What does it mean to you to be able to pick up a win over a guy like Michael Dufort?
It's huge. It's huge because, to me and a lot of the MMA community and, just fighters out there in Canada, he is one of the elite. And I wouldn't be surprised to see him, in a few years in the big league, whether it's UFC or Bellator, because he is that good. He is that skilled. And, that puts me in such a great spot and high in the rankings now after such a long layoff and beating such a top-notch athlete that it could propel me even back to the big show. Because I know if he would have beat me, he would have, like, he was already being like looked at because he had a phenomenal record. He's young. He's a great athlete. He's, like I said, highly skilled. And if he would have beat me, that would have jumped him there. But now that I beat him, I'm hoping it does the same effect for me.
Mentally, how does knowing that this rhabdo can kind of flare up at any moment, does that affect you mentally, even as we reflect days after this huge win over Michael Dufort? Are you concerned at all that it could flare up again, or are you confident that you're taking the necessary steps to prevent it from happening?
Even with the like necessary steps that we're taking, I'll always have it in the back of my mind, just because it did happen, and I'm like, man, I hope it doesn't happen again, type of thing. But with the necessary steps, like you said, that we're taking, and the proper dieting and supplementation and everything, just all the precaution, and just seeing how I was able to perform last weekend on Friday, that it didn't happen, and I was able to be myself. The more and more that keeps happening, the more and more I'm going to feel better about it, and that I could just, sweep that under the rug.
So let's talk about the big show. You've had a taste of it twice rather, in 2019. When you refer to the big show, would you only entertain an offer from the UFC? If Bellator called you, would you say, okay, maybe I'll give it a shot there as well? When you look at the big show, what are your aspirations moving forward?
For the big show, the goal is obviously the UFC, because it is the ultimate proving ground to be like the best of the best. At the same time, the fight game, you're a prize fighter and the prize is money. So it's also a business. So we have to be, smart about everything and make sure, the numbers have to make sense. And, the only ones that really pay well are those high up leagues. So like, I'm not saying like other leagues don't pay well, but you got to work your way up. Obviously, it's just like anything else, like in any work field, like you start minimum and then you get to, your unlimited or your maximum wage, and then you move on, either go to a new place or whatever. So, yeah, UFC and Bellator, they're open right now, obviously, because I'm a free agent, but it's who presents itself with the better deal, the more, I guess, exposure, just for, not only like future investments, but, future plans for, the fight game or just anything in life in general. Right. But,
For a Kyle Prepolec that's not affected by rhabdo, who is that fighter? Who is Kyle Prepolec when he steps into the cage? Of course, not affected by this sudden ailment.
he's just a calculated fighting like athlete. He's able to explode when need to be. He listens well. There's no desperation. Yeah, it's just a more complete, athletic, pure violent fighter.